they're close by. We're gonna see if I can't get them to land by me. Hey, baby. You wanna come over here? I got some little snacks for you. I got some snacks for you. Come here. I won't hurt you, promise. Hey, baby. Hi, Atlas. You're a good boy. Look at him. What? You don't want me to look at you, boo. Hi, Bubba. Who is that handsome boy? Hmm? I have faith. I have faith that my birds trust me. I hear a pretty song. Come here, birdies. Hey, bud. Atlas, you're okay. They're gone already. Yeah, they're gone already. I think I'm a bird. Come to me, my jungle friends. Rubes? Rubes? They're territorial. Hummingbirds are territorial. I don't know if you knew that. Very territorial little bird. Oh, hey, cowboy. You gonna pee on my spot? No? Okay, you're a good boy. You're a good boy. Thank you for being such a good sport, Rubes. Hey, Orangey, you gonna come over here? I got some food for you. Oh my God. Almost just got hit by 2 hummingbirds right now. Like right here. Well, yours is way prettier than mine, but... What are you looking at, hummingbird? Hmm? Oh. Oh, now you guys are going to start a fight between the hummingbirds and the finches? Finches, I thought you didn't have any enemies. Hmm? Hey, babes. Hurry up and get a snack before your buddy comes back and smack shash. You can always rest on me, though. Right here. I got one shoulder right here. Another one right here. Yeah. Wouldn't that be the coolest thing in a Z world? Let's see what the book has to say. Hi. You want what? Want me to see what the book has to say? What's up with that? Huh? Oh, you got little zoomers. Okay, so this is fucking crazy, and this is what I love about doing this thing right here, okay? So, so I pulled to a page, right? I just do that. That's what I do. So, the freaking thing is, it's okay, so I'm not going to go back, but it's pretty interesting. So, I'm going to start with the first one, but it's pretty freaking awesome. So, it's called The General Wasn't Chicken Enough. So, Roman general Publius Claudius was a brave and blustering man. It was 3 centuries before the birth of Christ, and he was in the midst of the First Punic War. General Claudius led his ships against the naval power of Carthage. It was a campaign he was sure that would bring victory and glory. But tradition had to be observed. Roman tradition held that chickens be brought along on every naval or land campaign. Tradition further dictated that the chickens be fed immediately before an attack. If the chickens ate, it was a good sign, and the battle would be joined. If they refused to eat, it was a bad sign, and the battle would be avoided for the time being. Not one to buck authority unnecessarily, General Publius Claudius had his collection of chickens on board, and they would serve their purpose. Just before the battle, the general had the chickens brought out on deck. Food was laid before the fowl there assembled, but the chickens refused to eat. After much coaxing, they still refused to eat. The crew stirred uneasily. This was not a good sign. The chickens were not eating. There should be no battle, but the general had other ideas. General Publius Claudius was not one to wait his glory on the whims of hens. Generally, General Plubus Claudius was not one to wait at all. He was eager to engage the enemy and impatient with what he felt were the superstitions of his time. "Throw them into the water," he demanded. The chickens were thrown into the sea. "If they won't eat, let them drink," he shouted, and ordered the battle to be joined. So that's a Roman story. What happens next, I don't think maybe that was the story that I was looking for, but in either way, this is part of a bigger section of stories. And this one, that which hath wings sings in nature. So there is something about okay, so we're gonna go back to that which hath wings, birds as augury. Animal behavior is probably one of the oldest human fields of study. It makes sense that our most ancient ancestors, having spent so much time watching and tracking animals, would find ways to read them, to use animals as instruments of divination. It is deep in the forests of the Central African Republic. A man in the village is concerned. His wife not conceived, and they have been married for over a year. He and his wife want to find out if she will conceive. The choices for this man are clear. He can ask a diviner to use the rubbing board. There are many in the village that know how to use this instrument. The reader takes his special board and reads answers based on the resistance of or lack of resistance he feels as he rubs it. The man has used this for simpler questions like the best time to visit a relative, but he is aware that such a method can be manipulated even unconsciously by the reader. This man has two other choices, the poison oracle and the termite oracle. In the first, a special poisonous powder is forced down the throats of small fowls. Usually they go into spasms. Sometimes they recover. No matter what, the motions of the poisoned birds are read to answer the question at hand. Oh, that's so sad. This is a potent method of divination. His people firmly believe that the poison or oracle does not err. Its authority is backed by the political power of the princess of the princes, and by tradition. The termite oracle is the man's third choice, and in this, the branches of two separate trees are cut and placed near a termite mound. The reader pokes the mound and disturbs the termites. If the insects go to one group of branches, the specific answer is given. If they go to the other, the opposite answer is given. The man is an Acended. The Acended people of Zaire, Central Africa, Republic, and Sudan are a substance farming folk, and they grow grain and bananas, and they fish. They also gather plants and insects. For the Acendeds, both animals and insects are tools for understanding their world. Every Acended household has its fowl for divination purposes. The use of animals and insects, birds and fish as divinatory instruments is a widespread and varied as divination itself. The Naskapis of Labrador use animal and fish parts as divination tools. They toss the mandible of a codfish in the air and call it a question. If the mandible falls with teeth upward, the answer is affirmative. If it falls with teeth downward, the answer is negative. And they also use the paw of an otter. On the Turk Islands in the South Pacific, the islanders use a complex technique of knots and turtle eggs to determine when the turtle will return. Among the pagan Slavs, horses were used to step over a certain pattern of lances, and the deftness of the horse and the pattern they described would give answers to the questions posed. The Dogon people of the African Republic of Mali trace diagrams in the sand, and they make patterns that correspond to the question being asked. The basic pattern is a rectangle divided into sections for the sky, the earth, and the underworld. The diviner adds marks to represent specific elements of the question. The drawing is left overnight, and ground nuts are laid around to attract animals. The following morning, the footprints of the animal give the solution to the question. The ancient Druids of Britain used chicken eggs and the way in which chickens scratched as a tool for divination. Oklahoma Cherokees turn loose 7 crayfish in the middle of a field to determine the weather. If the first crayfish heads east, there will be rain soon. If it crawls west, there will be no rain. And the Miao people of western Hunan, China, put 2 snails in a dish before taking any important action. They can watch the pattern of the snails escape. People have always looked to nature for assistance. From eggs to snails, from otters to horses, the creatures of nature help us to read the world. Long ago, before they found a home, the Thai people traveled to the south. At the time, the world was governed by 2 gods. The first was the sky god, Deva Brahma. He was a force of forces. He was a supreme deity, lord of the heavens. The second god was Laka Brahma. He resided on earth and was in fact quite human. Now, Lakarama was somewhat casual fellow. He was a god, but not one of your fire and brimstone, lightning and thunder gods. After all, his territory was the earth. The Deva Brava had given Lakabrahma the task of mastering the 8 precepts of Buddhism. However, Lakabrahma was simply not the scholarly type. When Deva Brahma made a surprise visit to the earth, he was dismayed to find that Lakabrahma had forgotten all the sacred precepts. The supreme deity of the god was enraged. He gave Lakabrahma 8 days to remember these precepts, or else he, Deva Brahma, would cut off Lokabrahma's head. Even a god needs his head. Frightened at the deadline, Lokabrahma traveled far and wide to find the sacred precepts. He even made an extensive journey to heaven to ask the divine spirits for the answer. But no one could help him. Exhausted from his search, Lakabrahma returned to earth as ignorant as he had left. There was only 1 day left before the Lord of the Skies would cut off his head. Back on earth, Lakabrahma lay down to rest under a tree where there was an eagle's nest. He heard high above a hungry eaglet complaining to his mother. There had been no meat for quite some time, whined the eaglet. The mother eagle told her child that she would get some meat the next day. The eaglet wanted to know from where the meat would come. The mother bird responded that Lakabrahma's head would be available in the morning. Terrified, Lakabrahma listened to the conversation in the treetop. He was well aware of the approaching deadline. The eaglet was curious. It wanted to know why Lakabrahma's head would be available. Because he has not learned the 8 precepts, responded the mother bird. What are these precepts? Asked the ever-curious eaglet. The mother eagle resisted her child's questions. However, like all children, the eaglet was persistent. Finally, unable to sustain the nagging of her child, the eagle told her eaglet the 8 precepts. Listening far below, Lakabrahma heard each of the 8 precepts as recited by the mother bird to her child. Listening far below, Lakabrahma saved his head by eavesdropping on the eagle. From that time on, the Thai people have listened carefully to the wisdom of the birds. Ancient Thai story. Throughout time, this is a different one, and this is reading the alphabet of the birds. So, throughout time, birds have been seen as the messengers of the gods and the carriers of the soul to heaven. The ancient Egyptians saw birds as the soul, with the hawk representing the soul of Horus and the pharaoh. Aztecs thought the dead were reborn as birds of their patron god. Among many Native American birds are the embodiment among many Native Americans, birds are the embodiment of the wind and the rain. In disparate cultures throughout the world, people have felt that birds were carriers of news and signs. Orthomancy and augury were the terms eventually used to describe the practice of using birds as divination tools. In the deserts of Arabia, wow, I can fucking spell. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad, diviners looked to the birds for signs. Today, the North Arabian Rawala tribe still looks to the creatures of the sky. The ancient Germans and Japanese watched the flight of birds to understand their own paths, and the Valkyries were said to understand the speech of the birds. In Samoa, in the South Pacific, birds were considered to be the incarnation of gods. The Samoans felt that their gods appeared in the form of animals. Where an animal is native, there the god resides. In several Samoan cultures, the war god was incarnated in a bird. And where the bird flew, so flew the fate of the people. For those people, the gods reside in herons, kingfishers, pigeons, and railbirds. In Indonesia, among the Conduit people, the deities express themselves through 7 species of forest birds. Number 44 is right next to that. It is through their sounds and their flight that birds announce themselves. It is through their sound and their flight that they have been seen as instruments of the divine. Flying across the sky, birds provide a living alphabet. The Roman writer Hygenius went so far as to claim that the invention of writing was suggested by the flight of cranes. The ancient Celtic mystics had their own alphabets called Ogam. One of these was based on the form and movements of the birds. The study of the form of flight of birds is common from the South American Amira Indians to the ancient Slavs, from the Philippines to the ancient Middle East and Central Asia. So, there is a next section. It's a game, and it's called Reading the Alphabet of the Birds. This is a game best played when there are large numbers of birds in the sky. The migratory periods of autumn are the best, and however, anytime there are more than a couple of birds in the sky is fine. So this is like a 12 step practice that you can try, and it's so you're going to find a comfortable position outside, either sitting or laying on your back. You're going to watch the birds, watch the direction and the shape of their flock, and watch their motion. Is it fluid, jerky? Do the birds move from the right to the left, left to the right? And then you're going to close your eyes. You're going to ask yourself, where am I at this point in my life? Or any other question that is important for you at this time. Okay? Now open your eyes. Squint your eyes so that the sky and the birds are slightly blurred. If you wear some strong glasses, take them off and you won't need to squint. Find letters in the formation of the birds and the individual birds. Look at them, and if you were reading as if you were reading a road sign, where many of the letters have worn away or changed. Put all the letters together and compose the message, and what does it tell you? So that's kind of a cool thing to do. So going into this next story, birds speak. They have voices and create a variety of sounds. Of course, they do not speak in human voices. They do not use words as we use words. Many people have listened to the voices of birds. The ancient Incas listened carefully to the prophetic sounds of the birds. Missionary priest Father Dupuron visited the Huron people of the Iroquois Nation in the 1600s and found the Indians basing their actions on the words from a crow or some other bird. The Uked Indians listened to the message of bullfinches, cuckoos, grebes, and grouse. 40 years ago, Lama Shim Rada, a Tibetan mystic, was fleeing his country. The Chinese were in close pursuit, and the Lama was in grave danger. Fortunately, Rada was trained in the ancient Tibetan practice of Bairokikatagpa, or simply bird divination. Fleeing with a group, Rada listened nearby before it reached him and thus enabled the Lama to reach India safely. Sometimes the ability to understand the words of birds permeates the entire society. Sometimes it is a specialized occupation, as among the Alfor people of the East Indies, who see the flight and singing of birds as a way of learning the will of spirits. While there are some birds that everybody can understand, there are others that require the services of a specialist. The Iban people of Borneo revere birds. Each tribe has its omen birds. Before a new piece of land is cultivated, the omen bird is consulted. The Ibans will not cultivate the land unless they hear a voice of encouragement from their bird. That is so cute. Now, listening to birds talk. And find a place outside where there are at least 2 birds making sounds. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and single out one of the birds. Listen to its song. Pretend that the bird is speaking to you, but you can't quite make out the words. Let words come. What feelings arise for you in listening to the song? What thoughts pass through your mind at this moment? Just let them pass and don't hold on to them. Ask the bird a question that is important to you. What answer do you get? It may come in feelings, thoughts, or words. What thoughts and feelings go through you? Make the bird's song into a phrase or even a sentence, and repeat the same procedure with a different bird. You might want to try to listen to different birds over a period of several days and see what kinds of answers you get to your questions. Okay, so just to kind of round things off here, the Roman playwright Terence once said, I consider nothing human alien to me. He could have said, I consider nothing living alien to me, for all life is connected. Even the most humble amoeba breathes, eats, excretes, reduces, and in its own way feels. It is an accepted fact that houseplants respond positively to love and Mozart's, and I'm about to go play my houseplants Mozart. We humans have always been dependent upon